Good evening, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Sports Extra with all the latest roundup of sports tonight. I am Ahmed Nawaz. We've got a fantastic lineup that we will be discussing. We're starting things off with football. In the English Premier League, we'll be talking about many things, and in many things, it's going to be some intense games that we witnessed. The league, obviously, is probably going to go to Manchester City. Manchester will be blue, that we know. But on the other hand, we still have some games in hand, and teams are definitely making a comeback because Chelsea have beaten Spurs once again. And I was also reading that, probably there's not been any manager other than Thomas Tuchel since he emerged onto the scene that has managed to beat Conte and other managers twice or thrice. So I think Tuchel is really getting that there. But Chelsea have been absolutely superb. They're still in the game and they're proving to be that. 2-0 was the difference that we saw. After that, Manchester United scoring just, I think, probably one of the most dramatic goals of the Premier League so far, almost at the stroke of play, managing to score a goal as well. And we will be discussing how they've managed to hold on as well. And then, of course, we do know that there were other games that we wanted. Daniel Medvedev has also cruised past Cressy, while top seed Ash Barty has eased past Asimonova, and Barty continues to shine. But overall, I think Alexander Zverev in being knocked out was probably one of the huge upsets of this Australian. And we want to see action because it was boxing. It was Ganou's stunning comeback as he retains the heavyweight title. Fight has gone to the distance as well, but his future is still uncertain because we will be talking about MMA, UFC in detail as well. I understand that there's been a lot of hype throughout the country about a boxing event that was happening, but now we take our focus to MMA as well because obviously we talked about this in the past month as well, how UFC has been turning the tables, how some of these fighters have really got a point to prove when you talk about their overall personal record and of course fight nights as well overall when you talk about this. So we'll be discussing that, and after that we will be moving on to cricket. In cricket we will be discussing that the Pakistan women's team has been announced for the World Cup in New Zealand. It was a squad that was announced in detail with Bisma Maroof as the captain, Nida Dar the vice captain, a lot of other girls in there as well who will be making the trip to New Zealand to represent Pakistan in this Women's Cricket World Cup that will be played in New Zealand. So we'll be discussing that in detail as well. Time now to introduce my guest in studios. I've been joined by my co-anchor. He's a football expert and a football youth coach as well, Sabeel Hazir. Assalamu alaikum, Sabeel. How are you?
Walaikum assalam, Ahmed. I'm very well.
Sabeel, good to have you on the show. We've got a report on the English Premier League and all the action that has been happening. Let's go take a look and then come back.
Hakeem Ziyech's stunner and Thiago Silva's towering header helped Chelsea overpower Tottenham for the third time this month. Chelsea ensured they kept Spurs at arm's length in the race for Champions League football as Thomas Tuchel's side ended a 4-game winless run in the Premier League to open up an 11-point gap between themselves and their visitors. Meanwhile, Manchester United secured a dramatic 1-0 victory over West Ham United after Marcus Rashford tapped home a crucial goal deep into second-half stoppage time. West Ham came into the tie occupying the coveted 4th spot, 2 points ahead of Rangnick's men. That situation was flipped on its head after Rashford's last gap tap-in, and United now sit inside the top 4. On the other hand, Southampton ended Manchester City's winning run of 12 Premier League games after battling away to a 1-1 draw with the league leaders, whereas Liverpool reduced the gap at top of the Premier League to 9 points after a 3-1 win at Crystal Palace.
There you have it, all you need to know about the Premier League action in detail, some of the games that we will be discussing, starting things off with Chelsea. Now, Sabeel, as I mentioned, Chelsea still have the better of not just Spurs, but of Conte as well. And they've managed to do that in the Premier League at many times. But it was pure dominance from them, and Spurs really did look clueless.
Yeah, I think Spurs, I don't even remember the last time they scored in the league against Chelsea, against Thomas Tuchel. He has a great defensive record against him. He has a great defensive record overall, but against Spurs especially, they just seem to be unable to score against Chelsea, especially Tuchel's Chelsea. Now, if you look at the game, you said they dominated. That's exactly right. The one big save that Kepa pulled off towards the end of the game from a Harry Kane header from a corner was pretty much the only action that he saw, really. That was you could say that we thought would be a goal. Then there was that one disallowed goal Tottenham had, which obviously Harry Kane had done a massive foul in the build-up, so it's no surprise it was disallowed. Brilliant performance by Chelsea. I think you saw some of the best of Ziyech. This is what we expected when he came from Ajax. He was cutting in and floating balls in.
Well, that goal has to be a stunner.
The goal, the technique behind that, I don't understand. I'm not sure people understand how difficult the technique is, because he's hit it close to the bottom right of that ball, so he gets that whip on it, and it's not just curled in. It looks like it's floated, and it's a very odd way for the ball to curl, and it's not a simple like
The
Shaolin
soccer.
Yeah, it looked a bit like that because it's a very interesting way to curl the ball. It's very difficult technique because it's not purely side foot, so it's actually quite hard technique to score that kind of goal. So brilliant. That's what we expected when he came to the Premier League. So very nice to see that. Other than that, they were really, really dominant in possession. You see why so many of them were in Team of the Year. You see why so many people were like, well, there should be more Chelsea players in Team of the Year. Rudiger is an absolute animal. He's so intelligent and sniffing out danger, and then he just uses all of his attributes to put it out. I also find it quite entertaining when he goes up with the ball and he does like random step overs which serve no purpose, but he's playing with a lot of confidence. It's good to see.
That's really good to see as well. But there is something about Chelsea. They still think that they're in contention for the title. Although we do realize that City has already had it.
Well, Ahmed, I guess that's how you have to play, right? If you're in a competition, you have to play to win it, and you shouldn't lose hope. Yes, we can sit here and go like, look, realistically, City are going to win the league. We've been saying this for 3 months now or so, that City are going to win this league. But if you just accepted that and gave up, there'd be no real competition. So it's great to see they're still going out there, not just getting results, they're playing some brilliant football, playing entertaining football, and it's fun to see. And the good thing is they can take this form into the Champions League then, right? Realistically, that's still up for grabs. You're defending European champions. Premier League teams are very, very strong. There's a few right now. They're also realistically the opposition from Europe is Bayern Munich. Real Madrid's finding some form, but they're not much threat. PSG, I don't think are going to go to the finals or semis even maybe. So there's a good chance it's a Premier League team that again reaches the final this year.
But that's got to be it, because in between, let's be very frank, we did think that maybe Tuchel is losing the plot over here. Maybe he, that ship is now sinking. And I frankly thought maybe it's going to be probably a top 4 finish, but didn't think that they'll be climbing and maintaining a lead at number 2.
Well, I think I also added to that when I was talking about his poor rotation in the faces of all that injuries. But it's easy to feel a bit panicked because it seemed like they were doing a lot of things in a panic. The way they were rotating, I guess, yes, they have an injury crisis. Now they recovered from it and they're on the back end of that. But they were rotating players very poorly in all competitions. And it seemed to be like, why is Tuchel, such a tactically sound coach, doing all of this? Is there pressure behind the scenes we don't know about? So we all speculated. But it's good to see that they quite clearly have a firm grasp of everything behind the scenes with the way they dealt with the Lukaku situation. It shows that. And it's nice to see that they are coming out of that with some good form. And I really hope they perform in the Champions League, because that's where we now want to see. That's obviously the premier European competition. We want to see the best teams play their best football.
Yeah, definitely. Imagine a week or 2 weeks before we're discussing what Lukaku's future is going to be. And now we realize that all the plans have been working. But moving on to Manchester United, who continue to surprise all of us, including myself. And I think the best part for United this season has been the drama that they've known for. So every time you think, okay, that's it, I'm done with United, they will do something to keep you intact. I think that's a good business prodigy or a model that you need to follow.
So we were talking before we went on here, because I was unsure if Rashford has the record for most 19 minutes, and you assured me that he does. So that is just what, like, Rashford kind of encompasses United's past and present, because if you talk about the past, he loves scoring late goals, very, very clutch, if you will. He's a very young product, come through the academy, like a typical what we assume is a United player. But he also represents the new United in the sense that he doesn't seem too bothered with what's going on the pitch. He seems like he's not putting in his max effort. So he's the best and worst of both worlds. But very good performance by United overall. I think actually they could have gotten a couple of goals earlier. There were some brilliant crosses coming in. Usually it just seems like they're hitting hopeful balls that Ronaldo's going to leap 10 feet in the air and get. This time there was generally some whip.
But you've got to give it to Cavani. The energy he brought in was absolutely amazing.
Definitely. Martial as well. Look, we've all been very hard on Martial his entire United career, barring one season. So I think we need to give credit to him and Cavani as well at this age to come in, be a senior figure. And you're a very different senior figure to Cristiano. So yes, you have Cristiano you can look up to and idolize. And then you've got Cavani you can idolize, but also he's trying to actually take you with him. He's a little bit more, I don't say compassionate, but he has a perhaps more gentle way or more constructive way of showing that on the pitch, at least. Off the pitch, I'm sure they're both.
Well, you talked about being harsh on Martial. I think if we had been half that much of, harsh on Maguire, things would have been different. But we didn't get there in time.
In fairness, Ragnick has said, or supposedly, what the rumor is that he said that Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Luke Shaw have to go. He is selecting Dalot and Telles, as I think is his main two fullbacks. And Maguire has to play because they don't, apart from Varane, like Lindelof and him, and Bailly's not really that consistent. So, but I think next season
Look, I'll
Maguire's
take
not
that.
part of the plan.
I won't take silverware, but I will take that as a United fan any given day of the week. But, you know, it's interesting to see Rangnick's plan because United have suddenly creeped up to 4, what we were discussing before the show, and we're discussing the standings as well, where they've got 2 games less than Chelsea probably, or Liverpool if you want to talk about that. But they've slowly crept up and, you know, at number 4. And that tells us a lot about what Rangnick's plan right now is, or what is his go-to mojo. Where does he want to end the Premier League on?
So they've gone up to 4th. Now it's interesting because they have a game in hand over West Ham, who are below them. But Arsenal, who's below West Ham, have a game in hand over them. And Spurs have 2 game in hands over them. So it's a very but the good thing is, look, having potential points is not as good as having actual points. So United can take solace in the fact that, look, they might have games in hand, but these are the actual points we have on the board, and we are in 4th for now. At the other end of the table, Norwich have a similar issue where they're on points ahead, but the other teams have a lot of game in hands. But at least for now, they're out of the relegation zone, right? So same way, United in the top 4. Now it's up to them, when the teams have caught up to them in terms of games, to push ahead on points.
And that's very interesting because I understand that we will be celebrating this last-minute goal and this victory because it was obviously a great occasion. But you got to give West Ham credit, and at the same time, you got to analyze United as well, why they failed to score the rest of the 90 minutes that were there.
So West Ham, we've been talking, waxing lyrical about them, talking very highly of them, and as we should. They've been phenomenal. And I don't, when they lose 1 or 2, we go like, oh, now the momentum ends. It hasn't ended. They seem to get a couple of wins on the bounce, and they'll lose one obviously because they're not a City or Liverpool will be pumping out results every week. But United's failure to score is down to 2 things, in my opinion. Obviously, you have to give West Ham credit in terms of the way that they were getting bodies back and putting, they were marking. It's very hard to mark a player like Cristiano Ronaldo in those final third moments. He's idle half the time, but when he switches on, it's so quick. So to keep up with that is very good. And the second thing is, I think, this is the first time I've seen United in a while actually play precise balls. So maybe Ronaldo and the forward line wasn't actually expecting them. But when they linked up the attacking players, Cavani, Rashford, Ronaldo and Bruno, when they were linking up with each other, that's when you saw the results. When, they got the ball from the fullback and then played amongst themselves. So that was very interesting to see.
So you saw some synergy, which we can expect in the future.
And West Ham did a good job as much as they could to deal with that with their midfield players. They've obviously got phenomenal players like Declan Rice, and they can, play in that midfield and defend in that midfield well. But I think obviously United, if they'd been playing this for a few weeks, I think they maybe would have gone 2 or 3 goals. And West Ham, I think, are benefiting from that. United haven't been in great form overall.
Moving on, United will be United. They've taken that victory, moved out to number 4, as Sabeel also highlighted as well. But moving on, supposedly the league winners are quite easy, even salvaging a draw this time.
So this is interesting now because Liverpool are thinking, oh, there might actually be a small chance we can do something now, because if they have a game in hand that they win, they're 6 points away from City. I still think, look, whether it's 2 points, 3 points, Liverpool lost the league to these guys with the biggest, they had the most points to not ever win a league. So they know that even 1 point to Manchester City is too much of an advantage, let alone 6 points, right? But I think, like you were mentioning before the show, maybe they took it easy. I think actually they were very wasteful, so that's actually an appropriate way of putting it.
Let's be very precise about it.
Yeah, they were very wasteful. They got a lot of chances in the box. I think they were hitting shots straight at the keeper. They actually played a few very soft finishes from 8-9 yards out, and I'm thinking, why don't you're better players, you can whack it with precision. Why not do that, or just whack it? Very good on Southampton's part to get a draw. Laporte, I think, though, he obviously scored the goal and that was great, but he's also tackled midway through the match about close to the top of his thigh. That should have also been a red card for Southampton, so I think they got a lucky escape. But anytime City drop points, Liverpool have to capitalize, because this chase is difficult enough as it is. Already. But fair play to Liverpool, 3-1 victory against a very good Palace, who were knocking at the door right till the penalty at the end. So good on Liverpool for getting their result as well.
Definitely, that will be the case. On that note, let's take a look at our segment recap that we had for the English Premier League. We were discussing, of course, football, the English Premier League in detail. We discussed how Chelsea had the better of Tottenham Hotspur once again, 2-0 their victory margin. Then, of course, United also salvaging a last-minute winner against West Ham United and moving up to 4th place as well. A good connection that we saw from some of their players, especially Edinson Cavani, Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial, as we're talking about them as well, linking up very well, as Sabeel mentioned as well. Then, of course, talk about Liverpool, the way they still think that there's a chance and they will be creeping up. They took it against Crystal Palace, and otherwise, whatever's happening in the league was there in front of you to discuss in detail as well. Now, moving on, of course, we've got to talk about the Australian Open, and it's tennis, obviously. But I think a lot to discuss in tennis, and we will start off with Rafael Nadal, who's also cruised past once again. We keep on talking about him getting to that 21st Grand Slam mark, that he's still there, but you never know. With these next-gen players, anything can happen. But it was truly a shocker when I actually got to know that Alexander Zverev was knocked out, because we had been giving him credit that he might be the competition that Nadal gets to face. But Nadal obviously will be facing Denis Shapovalov moving ahead, and obviously, the way he's outclassed his opponents as well. Then Daniel Medvedev in between as well. There's a lot to talk about about the Australian Open, and then of course moving on to Ash Barty and her dominance as well. But particularly, Sabeel, about Nadal, he will continue to surprise us. Let's take a look at that report, why we're talking about Nadal so much, and then we'll continue.
Speaking of Nadal, the 6th seed stayed on course for a record 21st major with a comprehensive win over Adrian Manarino. The Spaniard continues his quest for a record-breaking 21st major title. Nadal plays Denis Shapovalov next after he beat 3rd seed Alexander Zverev. Russia's Daniil Medvedev has downed American Maxime Cressy to reach the quarter-final stage of the Australian Open. This is Medvedev's 2nd straight quarter-final appearance in Melbourne, where he will face Canada's 9th seed Felix Auger-Aliassime.
There you go, all you need to know about the action of the Australian Open. Now, Sabeel, Ash Barty is there to talk about, because she's the only one who looks consistent enough to take that women's crown.
So I've been, probably people are sick of me saying this, I've been saying Ash Barty is the only favourite. Yes, Naomi Osaka was a black horse for me in this tournament, and she's already out. I don't see any competition. I think she'll actually win all the remaining games, in, like she has so far, straight sets. Again, it was a 6-4, 6-3 this time.
Clinical.
She's just going through opposition. It seems very through the motions kind of stuff. She has the home crowd behind her to get her to the crown.
But she's going to get the home crown.
She's going to get that as well. I think she really, who doesn't want to win the biggest tournament of their country, Grand Slam? So it's something she hasn't won.
But your Australian colours are out, so I see your support. You're wearing yellow right
Look, I'm a big fan of Barty, and I definitely think she's winning this. I think she won't drop a set.
Well, on the men's side, Nadal, like we say, that he's still the favourite to win that 21st Grand Slam. But there's been other things happening as well, including Alexander Zverev crashing out, which probably we didn't expect.
So I would like to say, I've been saying from the beginning that Zverev is not one of my favorites.
Okay,
yes, I do think he's a good competitor, and he was the one outside of the top two, probably give them the most challenge, even though I still thought Kyrgios would be more of my dark horse. I've said from day one, it's Nadal or Medvedev. I still think Medvedev is the outright favourite. Nadal, again, look, the way he won his last match, it goes to tiebreak in the first set, and then he wins the next two. He's broken his opponent after that, right? You put so much effort against Nadal, and then he beats you in that way, right? So he has that passion, he has that desire to just keep pushing and not giving up. So he definitely went to tiebreak, but he does seem like he is in control. He's not running around too much on the pitch. He's not being made to run around a bit more. There are a few unforced errors, and he does have some issues with the crowd here, because he thought they were booing him when they were saying, the Ronaldo celebrations. But now he's got that under control. And Medvedev has a bit of the Djokovic about him, that he's, complaining about bathroom breaks, complaining about not being on centre court, things like this. So he's playing those mind games as well, and I think he will best Nadal if they both play each other later on.
Well, look, I know Europe might just have it in him to beat Nadal, would probably be Daniel Medvedev. We probably see that happening. This might just happen. So you never know. Things will be that. But overall, it's truly been a magnificent Australian Open so far, aside from all the controversy. But there's still a lot of competition. On that note, let's take a look at our segment recap. We discussed the Australian Open tennis tournament, and we discussed the fact that Ash Barty has been cruising into the next round. Rafael Nadal has cruised into the next round as well. Alexander Zverev has been knocked out, and Nadal is still eyeing the 21st Grand Slam as well. But Daniel Medvedev, obviously losing temper, is, I think, flavour of the Australian Open. You want that, things like those to happen. But now moving on to our focus on the UFC. It's been an incredible fight night when we talk about UFC. Let's take a look at this report and then come back.
Francis Ngannou produced a stunning comeback to earn a unanimous decision victory over Cyril Gane and retain his heavyweight title at UFC 270. Seemingly down 2 rounds going into the third, Gnou 35 utilised his wrestling skills to land a series of takedowns and edge French interim champion Gain on points to unify the heavyweight division. It was an uncharacteristic move for Cameroon's Gnou, whose punching power has earned him the reputation as one of the most fearsome knockout artists in the UFC history. The pair used to be sparring partners, with Gain's head coach Fernand Lopez being Gnou's former mentor during a spell in France. Gnou took Gain down again at the end of the round, and it was the same story in the fourth as the champion controlled the fight, spending over 2 minutes on top. Gnou defended a leg lock from Gain and gained top position for a final time, controlling his opponent until the end before raising both arms in triumph when the buzzer sounded, confident he had done enough to retain his title.
There you have it, all you need to know about UFC 270 in detail. Now, Sabeel, Francis, as an individual, for someone who admitted that his preparations had been hampered due to a knee injury, but he just refused to quit. He was advised by his medical team and obviously his extended team as well to probably call it, but he refused that and he wanted to go into the fight. He had the better of his French interim opponent, but you know, you got to give it to credit. It's because of individuals like these that, you know, the sport continues to live on.
You have to give him credit for all of that as well as how he won the fight. Now look, we were expecting a slugfest between them. You've got Gain, who's a Muay Thai background on one side, and Ngannou, who's got striking. Obviously, he was a boxer for most of his career.
Yeah.
So you expect strike. I think in the UFC, he's only had 1 submission finish, if I'm not mistaken. So he tried that approach in the beginning. Now you have to understand his opponent is very light in his feet. Joe Rogan said this on a podcast. He moves like he's 170, even though he's 250. So he moves around a lot. And Ngannou seemed taxed after the first round. He probably lost the first couple of rounds, in my opinion, because he was exhausted chasing him and he couldn't keep up with the movement.
Which was the strategy from his opponent.
And his opponent was going to land a lot of high volume and mid to high power shots. And Ngannou was not getting his big knockout strikes through. So the change of tactic in the third round, it goes with a high kick and then he goes for takedowns. It's not something anybody expected, least of all us, his opposition, who expected that. And such successful takedowns that he dominates the next 2 rounds on the ground. And in the 5th round, when his opponent actually gets on top of him, for some reason gives up control of Ngannou's legs and Ngannou gets top again. So it's a very interesting way to adjust as well to your opposition. Look, you've come from injury, you've adjusted to a game plan mid-fight, done something where you're not very well known for, and then to do it all the way to the end, see out 3 rounds for a guy who's a knockout artist and has, you know, devastating power. It's very, very impressive. And I think now the issue is, you know, with the controversy regarding his contract, with Dana White not even putting the belt on him, not being there, I think, at the post-fight conference. A lot of question marks, unfortunately, about a guy who is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters and one of the best knockout artists they've ever had, the UFC. So you really hope they sort that out so we can get him back in the ring, seeing him defend that title.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned about this improvisation in the 3rd round where he's realized that, look, I'm not going to be able to hang on to this with my stamina and just keep on moving on the ring. So I'll go with simple takedowns and I'll try to, you know, go more tactical as much as I can. But at the same time, it does become dangerous with a knee injury that you're putting yourself in harm's way, trying to go to a game. But at the end of the day, it's worked because he caught his opponent by surprise.
Yeah, it has worked because of that. And I think also it worked out because his opponent was, I don't get why, there's probably a reason in the he'll probably find out in the coming weeks, tactically why he was letting go of Ngannou's legs. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, if you have one of his legs wrapped up,
maybe too big to grab.
But you're also, look, they're both 6'4", 6'5", 200. They walk around 250, 260 pounds. So it's not like he's not a giant as well. So I don't understand that, but there must have been a game plan that I wasn't privy to, obviously. But credit to Ngannou, adjusted well. Very, very tough circumstances that he was coming from to go and win this. And it's also very tough when you don't know what your future at the company is. Technically, look, UFC champions, I think if they're not retiring, have to defend their belt. But we don't know. His contract disputes have to be solved. And Dana White really needs to get this under control. And I think it was not great on his part.
And probably be more public about it as well. I think the fans at least deserve to know what the future is.
And Ngannou deserved to have the belt put on him by Dana White. Look, I don't know, maybe there was some legitimate reason he wasn't there. But if it's just because, look, this dispute's going on, that's not very good on Dana. For a guy who I think has done the right things by UFC a lot of the times, even though he does come under criticism.
Definitely, that will be that. Sabeel, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Extra. Let's take a look at our segment recap. We did discuss UFC 270 and we talked about Ngannou taking it out on his French interim opponent. The way he's been, absolutely superb. You've got to give it to Francis carrying a knee injury into this. Of course, his future is uncertain, but at the end of the day, he's won. He's won more tactically than expected. So that fight has been one intense night of fighting in UFC that we've talked about. On that note, we'll go towards a short break, but stay tuned. We'll be right back with cricket discussing ICC awards and the women's team that has been announced for the World. Welcome back to Sports Extra. We're going to be discussing cricket in detail in studios. Joining me is our sports expert. Cricket in particular is his forte, and he's a cricket commentator as well. These days, very much in demand, and I think the most valuable out there on social media as well. We have been joined by K. Asif Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you very much. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm very good as well. Enjoying my time with you and Sabeel and enjoying the show as well. And we're going to be starting things off with the big news for Pakistan. I think this is the most remarkable year for Pakistan cricket as we've seen it. First of all, the latest news is that Shaheen Shah Afridi has grabbed the Sir Garfield Sobers Trophy and been named the Cricketer of the Year. Babar Azam, ODI Player of the Year. Mohammad Rizwan, T20 International Player of the Year, and Fatma Sana also bagging award on the women's side for the emerging category as well. Now, K. Asif Ahmed, this has got to be remarkable because it's not just one, but four individuals who have won these awards for their own performances for Pakistan cricket in general. Just goes to show us how much important Pakistan cricket right now is to the world.
Well, really important, and it's been a really great news for Pakistan cricket, not only for the Pakistan cricket, but the fans are, of course, their happiness is over the moon and they're enjoying. Yes, if you talk about specifically one by one, so I'll start from Fatma Sana because it's been remarkable that she has created history for the Pakistan, and she belongs to Karachi. Luckily I met with her club coach Javed Kadir. Is a former international cricketer, and he was telling me about herself that she has two sisters, three brothers, and she's the only keen for the cricket in her family. And her father is a private servant. They're a very mediocre family, but she got really good passion. And he told me that she's very good pacer. And when you talk about that, the all-rounder, bowling all-rounder, like a lady like her, she's been phenomenal with her bat, not only with her bat, but she's a really good fielder as well. So, of course, it's a huge news for Pakistanis that not only guys, but the ladies, the girls, they're proving themselves that they could do something special, and they are doing something special. So, hats off for the for this lady. She's been phenomenal in last year, and
in just a year she's managed to ace all of that.
Yes, that's fine. So I'm pretty much happy for her. And when we talk about Shaheen Shah Afridi, you know that a talent after Wasim Akram, we were been looking for a fast bowler, and yes, Amir showed a class, but shows his class.
You just had to mention Mohammad Amir in between.
Yes, I'm mentioning what happened in the past with him and what he did. Apart from each and everything, that he was a world-class bowler. And after that, we've been missing Muhammad Asif, and that everyone knows that what sort of class he has, and what speed star Shoaib Akhtar had said about him, that he was a magician. And yes, he was. Yes, without any doubt. So now there is Shaheen Shah Afridi, and I was talking to one of renowned Indian journalist Vijay Lokpali. He's an author. He said that the entire World Cup has been ruined by Shaheen Shah Afridi, and the way he bowled two deliveries to KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma, it was disaster for India. So it was not only for the disaster.
And they're still not recovering.
Yes, that's right. So Shaheen Shah Afridi is no doubt that he's an asset for Pakistan. That's why Lahore.
But ask a very important question. You're going to mention his captaincy, I know as well. But this is a point where it's either make or break for you in a career, because at a very young age, you've been given so much in the world. And although he's very humble, but definitely the PCB and Shaheen both have to make sure that his focus remains on the game and his priorities are straight.
this is his test actually. This is this test of nerves. This is his test of leadership. And yes, if you're considering him a leader for the future, this is the right time to test him. Look, this is your own tournament. This is your own PSL is your own brand. So why not you are testing? And this is the legacy of Lahore Qalandars, that they're bringing new talent. They're giving chances to the new talent. No one knows that who was Suhail Akhtar, but now every Pakistani, the all over the world, everyone knows that the Suhail Akhtar was captain for the Lahore Qalandars. He never captained even before this. He never was a leader even for the domestic cricket in any side. But this is the Lahore Qalandars legacy, as I've said before, that Lahore Qalandar is the organization, is the franchise who gives paths to the youngsters to come up, to show up your talent and tell that you are the best. So there won't be, yes, there would be slight pressure on him, but I'm telling you that the head coach Aqib Javed and the rest of the organization, the rest of the designation holders like the CEO of Lahore Qalandars, Atif Rana, Samin Rana, Fawad Rana, everyone backs their youngsters, and that's why everyone is looking towards two fast bowler Haris Rauf and Shaheen Shah Afridi. They got some confidence from their franchise, and now they're leading for the Pakistan.
There's been a lot of talk about them. Even the Prime Minister has mentioned that he'd like to see Lahore Qalandars winning this year's PSL.
And not only this, but the Prime Minister said that their fast bowler could be a very good leader as well. And of course, we could put the best example, and that is Imran Khan, that he was an all-rounder, a bowling all-rounder, and he led in a best way. Yeah. So yes, there would be any slight pressure on Shaheen Shah Afridi, but he's playing for a long time.
But there are some players who enjoy pressure. You've got to give it to them. For a guy like him, he enjoys pressure probably.
Why don't you take an example of Graham Smith? That look, he was very young in the side, but he led for a long time because. And that's why I also mentioned Stephen Fleming of New Zealand. That so if you are coming as a leader in young age, it means that you're learning something, and this learning process will lead you something very far.
I've got two more awards. We talk about Mohammad Rizwan. Spectacular year for him. I think overall his legacy is something that we will always cherish. Not just on the field, but off the field, his humbleness as well. Babar Azam also there. But in general, as a cricket expert and a commentator, how do you see the importance of these 4 awards for Pakistan cricket? Remember, we have Australia that has to tour in March, and that would probably set the tone. And so far, like Ramiz Raja also said, be the best in the world and teams will come to tour you. And it seems that things like these are going to be happening. The whole world is now going to be ready to play with Pakistan in Pakistan.
That's right. What happened in the T20 World Cup, that we beat New Zealand, and after that match, New Zealand's cricket board has contacted to the Pakistan cricket board. So this is the right thing that which Ramiz Raja has mentioned, that play world-class cricket, and world-class cricketers and world-class team will be definitely visiting you. So it's really important for Pakistan, that because we were missing the class from last couple of decades, to be very honest. That if I'm not wrong, Mohammad Yusuf, Yunus Khan and Inzamamul Haq, after these 3 names, we were looking towards batters that we didn't have any big name. But Mohammad Rizwan showed his class, proved himself, and before 4 years, I met him at Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium, and to be very honest, he said that my wife is pushing me that to leave cricket because you don't have any future in cricket. But now I think she would be the happiest lady of the Pakistan. That,
definitely.
Yes. And we always talk about that the form is not permanent, but the class is the permanent. Yes, the Babar Azam and Rizwan both have a tremendous class. Babar Azam, I was just reading an article about him and Brian Lara. He said that whenever I get any sort of, I feel bored in my life, I used to watch his cover drives.
Definitely.
His cover drive is phenomenal.
Magician. He's absolutely magical and clinical. And like Asif has also mentioned, that these 4 awards will definitely go a long way when we talk about Pakistan cricket. Congratulations to all of these 4 individuals, especially to PCB, to the entire nation. I think it's a huge moment for us Pakistanis. We should definitely cherish this as cricket fans. Moving on, we also know that Pakistan Cricket Board has also announced the women's squad that will be participating in the Women's World Cup in New Zealand. We've got a report on that. Let's take a look. Okay, so we'll have that report and we'll give you the details as well. We've obviously got some glitches that we'd like to address. But overall, if we look at that team, we know that Bisma Maroof is going to be the captain, Nida Dar the vice captain, Diana Baig is in there. There are a lot of other names to discuss as well. Asif, in short, it's a complete team that has been announced by Asmavia Iqbal. The girls are very much focused towards going into this World Cup. We understand there is a huge difference when we talk about the way teams are going in the world in women's cricket and then Pakistan. But our girls do have the ability, they can surprise any opposition.
Yes, you would have to face 7 world-class sides in New Zealand. And, you know, whenever you're playing in New Zealand, the environment and the pitches always really difficult for the Asian sides. So if I talk about specifically Pakistan side, that plenty of experience there. Yes, some young blood is also included by the management, by the selection committee. Bisma Maroof, I've observed, is leading capabilities in UAE. I was there, and when Pakistan beat West Indies first time in an ODI series, in bilateral series. And as you said, that Nida Dar, she is a really good off spinner, and recently she has completed her 100 wickets in T20. So it would be definitely helping her. You said that Diana Baig and then Sidra Amin, you know, the Aman, all of them are really good. And the most important thing is that the coaching staff is working really hard with them. And I met their assistant coach, Arshad Khan, former test cricketer, and he was sharing with me that we are observing that the way Australians the way Australian do what they do, that they have different classes. I mean, for T20 we do different practices, for ODI we do different practices, for all-rounder for all-round performances we see some other aspects. So the coaching staff is doing really hard work with them, and Bisma Maroof is pretty much hopeful, though she came back after 2 years, and same with the Nida Dar. But I'm pretty much hopeful that this is a really good selection from the selection committee.
But how do you rate her comeback? Because it's been 2 years when we talk about her journey. Obviously, she went on to a maternity leave. Last time she played in 2020. Then coming back after 2 years, what has to be the player's mindset going into the game once again?
Actually, she has started her practice from last 6 months. She's doing her practice. So it's been good. You know, if you're a professional cricketer, you need only 1-2 months to take your class back, to take your momentum back. So I think that she's in good touch, and I watched a couple of her videos during that practice, so she's in good touch. I don't think so that she'd been in any sort of extra pressure, because she was on the leave for the last 2 years, but now she's fine, and her family is supporting her. Pakistan Cricket Board is supporting her. People like us sitting on the TV channels, we are backing our girls. So I think that we're expecting good results.
Definitely good results, and all the best to the girls in green. Asif, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Extra. On that note, let's take a look at our segment recap. We discussed, of course, cricket in detail. We started off with the ICC Awards, where 4 Pakistanis have won these awards, including Babar Azam, ODI Cricketer of the Year, Rizwan, T20 International Cricketer of the Year. We've got Fatma Sana, Emerging Women's Cricketer of the Year, and Shaheen Shah Afridi grabbed the most prestigious Sir Garfield Sobers Trophy for Cricketer of the Year. I think it's a huge achievement. Then, of course, we talk about the prospects of Pakistan cricket in the future because of these awards as well. All eyes on Pakistan cricket at the moment. And we also discussed the fact that a squad has been announced for the Women's World Cup for the Pakistani side as well, where Chief Selector Asmavia Iqbal announced that squad. Bisma Maroof, of course, to lead the side with Nida Dar as her vice captain. On that note, that's all we have time for. But before we go, we do know that sad news came in today about a veteran test cricketer, Mr. Aftab Baloch, who passed away today. Played 2 test matches for Pakistan from 1969 to 1975. Also part of the elite 400-member club as well. And, more than 9,000 runs in list A cricket, more than 170 matches, 172 to be precise. He passed away today. I think from all the team of Sports Extra and PTV World, PTV in general, we offer our deepest condolences to the family of Mr. Baloch, Mr. Aftab Baloch. We hope that the family are given the courage to bear this loss. Of course, it's a sad day for the entire cricketing fraternity in Pakistan, and we send our deepest condolences and sincere prayers for the soul of Mr. Aftab Baloch and his family. On that note, that's all we have time for. From me and the entire team, we'll join you tomorrow again. It's goodbye for now.